أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا. We start off by praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and sending our peace and blessings upon our Master Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bless us with beneficial knowledge and understanding and wisdom. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us a purity and a purification of our souls through our fasts. And we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us awareness to the immense bounty that fasting is to us, and to our bodies, and to our minds, and to our spiritual state. We ask Allah to not make us heedless of this amazing bounty that fasting is. And we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the bounty of siyam and salah and zakah. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the bounty of acts of worship and obligations, because they only come to make us better people, and they only come to purify us in the best of ways. And the person who lives with Allah is truly happy. The person of salah and Quran and siyam, fasting and zakah, the person that upholds the obligations of God, is a truly happy individual. It's not a fake happiness like the person of dunya, or the person who chases to continuously buy something or to continuously play something. The one who constantly follows a desire. He doesn't have true happiness. He has temporary fake happiness. It's a tainted happiness that he gets, or that she gets, when they go shopping and they purchase something brand new. You get happy for 10-15 minutes. Maybe you get happy for 2 days, maybe 4 days. But then the happiness expires, because that's not real happiness and contentment. Real happiness and contentment is found in the heart, connecting your heart with Almighty God, Allah. And we say this all the time, but connecting your heart with Almighty God means doing acts of worship, because acts of worship is you doing them for the sake of God. So your heart is connected to Allah through salah, and to Allah through Quran, and to Allah through all of these acts of worship that we have. But this fast that we do once a year is phenomenal. And I wish, and I pray, wallahi, I wish that fasting could be obligatory 365 days a year. I would love it. I would love it. But Allah is all wise, and Allah is the legislator, and He obligates it upon us 1 month a year only. So we could regain iman and recharge our iman batteries that deplete throughout the year, and so we could reconnect to God and taste that amazing feeling it is to live with Allah in our lives. Because you're fasting the whole day, you're living with God the whole day. The whole day is an act of worship. The whole day of fasting is ibadah. So you're not eating and drinking, but you're receiving reward. So we continue our series. Wallahi, we ask Allah to grant us awareness of these bounties of iman. We continue our daily series, and today's topic is the etiquette of talab al-ilm, or the etiquettes of seeking knowledge. This is a beautiful topic. And all the topics surrounding etiquette are beautiful topics. The other day we were speaking about the etiquettes of the Masjid, I believe 2 days ago. And yesterday we were speaking about the etiquettes of speech and how to talk. So today we speak about the adab of talab al-ilm, or the etiquettes of seeking knowledge. What is it that you have to beautify yourself with? What kind of etiquette do you have to beautify yourself with when you want to seek knowledge? And seeking knowledge is very virtuous. يَرْفَعَ اللَّهُ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مِنْكُمْ وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمَ دَرَجَاتٍ. As Allah tells us in Surah Al-Mujadilah, that Allah raises the status of those who believed from you and those who attain knowledge. Allah tells us in Surah Al-Mujadilah that He raises the ranks of those who believed amongst us humans, those who have iman. هل يستوى الذين آمنوا هل يستوى الذين يعلمون والذين لا يعلمون. That's not what I wanted to say, but the person of belief is not the person of no belief. The person of belief, of course, his status is better than the person of no belief, because he believes in Allah and he upholds good and he stands for good and he stays away from the prohibitions of God. So Allah tells us that He raises the status of those who have believed from amongst you, and this is common sense. Then He says, وَالَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْعِلْمِ. And He also raises the status of those who attain knowledge. Darajat, levels of status raising. And the point here in this ayah is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't specify those who attain knowledge from amongst the believers. He says, and those who attain knowledge. So those who have belief, your status is raised. And also, generally speaking, those who have knowledge. So even the person that's not a mu'min, or not a person of Islam, and if he's a person of knowledge, his status is raised. And this is something that's a reality of life, because the professor, the atheist chemistry professor, or the atheist biology professor, he's respected in society because of his knowledge, because of his PhD, because he's a professor. It's a high status in society. Knowledge grants a person status. Knowledge grants a person status. So iman, having iman in knowledge is double status. Having iman in beneficial knowledge, Islamic knowledge, the greatest of all sciences, is the best. So we come to the masjid and we come to pray salah, we come to do good things, but we also hear a dars. And inshallah, the dars and the khatira or the bayan, the purpose of it is to teach, ta'aleem, it's to teach. So even when you come sit in the dars of the masjid, you should conduct yourself with these characteristics. But like I said, seeking knowledge is a very virtuous thing, and it's incumbent upon a group of Muslims to go study. So it's a fard kifaya. It's a communal obligation. A communal obligation means not every single person has to do it, but there has to be some people that go and seek knowledge so they can continue the Islamic legacy and teach the Muslims. We need people to teach people how to make wudu and how to pray. And there's a long tangent I like to go down here. I'm not going to go down it, but I would say 95% of people don't know how to clean themselves after the bathroom. I'll say 95 to 99%. Maybe 95 to 97%, so we don't be so mean. I'll say 95 to 97% of people don't know how to properly clean themselves after using the bathroom. And this is detrimental to the state of your wudu. Because if you don't stop your urine from excreting, your wudu doesn't count when you go make wudu. This is a long topic. So, etiquette of seeking knowledge. The first thing that you should beautify yourself with when you seek knowledge is al-ikhlasu fil qasdi. Of course, the first thing they mention from an etiquette is being sincere. Al-ikhlas fil qasd. Being sincere in that which you're trying to achieve. Having sincerity in your heart for that which you're trying to achieve, which is the knowledge. Because if you go and you study for 10 years, and if you go exert effort and you pay money to buy a ticket to Egypt to go study in Al-Azhar, or you go buy a ticket to go to Saudi Arabia to study in Mecca or Medina, or you go buy a ticket to go study in Damascus, because Damascus is free now, you're going to spend money on the ticket, maybe $1,000, maybe $700. And then you go there and you live in Egypt for 8 years and you spend money on rent and you spend money on food and you spend money on private classes. You spend money on the Quran teacher and the money on the tajweed teacher and the money on the grammar nahu teacher, and you spend money on the bus fare. Yani you exert effort. You exert effort, time, which is your most valuable currency, time of your life, and you exert financial effort. You spend money. So if you do all of this, but the first condition is wrong, you're wasting your time and money. Like, you're wasting everything. Like, go home and sleep at home and watch Netflix is better for you than go wasting 10 years of your life and coming back with nothing to show for it because you're insincere. And I'm rough when I speak about this because this is very scary. So you have to be rough sometimes to wake people up. We have to be sincere when we do things. We do things for the sake of Allah. You don't do things to get money. You don't do things to get a wife. You don't do things to get an alternative motive. And I say money and wife because that's the two main things that men are driven by. Financial stability and a spouse. You don't do things for a human. You don't do things for dunya. You do things for God. You seek the pleasure of God. Your intention to go study is to remove ignorance from yourself, because we're all ignorant. So first is izalat al-jahl an nafsi. The first thing you want to do is remove the ignorance from your own self. And the second thing you want to do is, inshallah, teach that knowledge with sincerity so you could propagate and you could allow the ummah to have some knowledge. So having a sincere intention is number one. And the topic of sincerity is a strong topic in Islam, and it always comes first. We always talk about it first before everything, because like I just said, if you don't have this one thing, this condition, if it's gone, everything else doesn't matter. Why are we going to talk about how you sit in a majlis of ilm if you have no sincerity? That's number one. And that's why the scholars of hadith and the books of hadith, every single hadith they start off with in their compilations of hadith, Bukhari, Muslim, Tirmidhi, all the ahadith compilers, because they're ahadith compilers. They don't author it. That's the Prophet's words. They compile, and they write footnotes, or they write the sanad, which is the chain of narrators. So we call it Sunan al-Tirmidhi because it was Imam Abu Isa al-Tirmidhi al-Darir. He was from Tirmidh, which is on the border of Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, right? This great scholar, he didn't author the book of Tirmidhi. Of course, he wrote it down, but what he's writing down is the sayings of the Prophet ﷺ, and he added the chain of narrators that he got it from his Shaykh up until the Prophet, right? And he wrote maybe a footnote here and there of the authenticity level of the hadith, or something he wanted that stood out in the hadith to him, like a hard word. He gave a definition. But the author of these books is the Prophet ﷺ, it's the hadith. But when they compile the hadith, when they bring them together, they put them in different, chapters, chapter headings, abwab, chapter headings, right? Subjects, right? And they all start their books off with the same hadith, no matter what the first chapter is about. Because some scholars of hadith, when they compile it according to books of fiqh. So it starts off with the chapter of purification, then the chapter of salah, then the chapter of fasting. For example, So if chapter 1 is the chapter of purity, he'll bring a hadith in regards to purity, right? The Prophet ﷺ, for example, said, wudu is this many things, right? But they don't start with that. Or some of them start with the chapter on how the revelation began to the Prophet. Whatever they start their books with, the first hadith they put is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ وَإِنَّمَا لِكُلِّ امْرِئٍ مَا نَوَى. They all start off with the same hadith that's narrated by Sayyidina Umar ibn al-Khattab. As he said, one day I heard the Prophet ﷺ say when he was on the minbar, إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ. Indeed, all actions are based upon their intentions. And every single person has his intention. So actions, it's common sense stuff, but sometimes you have to hear actions based upon the intention behind the act. So you could do yoga and Pilates that looks like salah without an intention of salah and you don't get ajr. Or you could pray salah with an intention. So all actions are based upon their intention and every person is responsible for his intention. And the reason why they start their books of hadith with this hadith is to remind the person that comes to read the book of hadith to renew your intention when you read the hadith of the Prophet. And you want to come and study Bukhari and Muslim to learn hadith, learn about your intention and rectify your intention and renew your intention first. So first condition is having a sincere intention, and your intention is to remove the ignorance from yourself and to come closer to Allah and to gain taqwa through your knowledge. The second thing they mention is al-i'tidalu fil julus or fil majlis, is to sit upright in the setting of knowledge. And wallahi, everyone gets a 10 out of 10 today. Mayor is always 10 out of 10 with the way he sits. Imran is always 10 out of 10. Muhammad is 100 out of 100 always. His brothers are all good. Him and his kids always good. Then you have someone come and he put his foot out and he goes on his phone and he... You have respect for what is being said. You're in the masjid first. First you're in the masjid. Second, there's something going on that's beneficial, and that's the classes going on. Speaking about hadith and Quran always. What do we talk about in the masjid? You have to respect that. So the second thing they say is sit in a respectful manner. And I like to always talk about the foot because the foot is disrespectful to put in the front. Like to face it toward the qibla is disrespectful, it's makruh. And then to put it in my face is also disrespectful to me. Not because it's me, but I'm the one teaching here. You know, respect any teacher, not me. You don't put your foot in someone's face, that's disrespectful. And when you put your foot toward the qibla, that's disrespectful. You could sit with your foot out in your bed. You could go to the cafe, put your foot out how you want. We don't expect people to have etiquette in a cafe. I won't hold you accountable for how you sit in your room. I won't hold you accountable for how you sit in the salon. But we're in the masjid, so we're teaching etiquette of the masjid. وَمَنْ يُعَذِّمْ شَعَائِرَ اللَّهِ فَإِنَّ ذَلِكَ مِنْ تَقْوَى الْقُلُوبِ. Allah says, whomsoever venerates and shows significance to the matters of Islam and Deen, that is from the purity and the piety of the heart. You respecting the majlis, you respecting the masjid, you respecting the Quran, you respecting salah, you respecting anything to do with Islam, a dars of ilm, this goes back to the state of your heart and the purity of your heart and your closeness to God in your heart. So this is a reminder, when you come to the masjid, generally speaking, you sit good. Then if there's a class going on, you sit better. Make sure you sit good. And you come to the front, you start with the front. Because when you start in the back, like people love to do in Jum'ah, they start in the back, then the guy walking in, he looks, then he looks up, then he looks like this, because he doesn't know how to enter. And he doesn't want to walk over people. And every Jum'ah, it's the same thing. People start from the back, because the door is in the back. So when you say salam, salam, they got to run out the door. Come to the front. You start in the front, and then you go to the second. So the third thing is at-ta'addub ma'al mu'allim. The third thing they mention is having etiquette and respect towards your teacher. And the more you respect your teacher, the more Allah opens up on you. Because respecting your teacher means you're a person of respect. And I lived in Egypt for 8 years, and the closest people to my mashayikh, along with me and my friends, us that we used to look after our teachers and speak to them well and always have immense etiquette with them, Allah opens up on us more. Or Allah opens up on whoever has more etiquette and respect, Allah opens up on you more. So you have respect for the place of knowledge, you have respect for that knowledge, and you have respect for who is teaching you that knowledge. And one aspect of having respect for the teacher or for who you took knowledge from is that if you take knowledge from a book, you mentioned that I read in the book of Ad-Da' wa Dawa' li Ibn al-Qayyim. You attribute where you got the knowledge from, and that's from amana and respect. Because we learn from books as well, so we learn from the book as well. You have respect and you're propagating of knowledge as well. So respecting your teacher is very important, having respect for that person who teaches you knowledge. And my teachers used to teach me, they said that anybody that taught us one word from the Quran, harf min kitabillah, we hold that to a high standard, and we always remember that bounty that they have on us, because teaching is a great thing. Teaching is propagating the religion. Teaching someone Quran is great. So you always venerate your teachers, and you always venerate those who are people of Islam and people of piety, people of goodness. Then the fourth thing they mention is al-amalu bil-ilmi, is to work upon that or to implement that what you learn. And we talk about that a lot here. And that's that we learn and we take in order to implement, not in order for it to be a source against us, a proof against that. No, we don't study in order to not implement, in order to just receive information. We study in order to implement. And if you study and take in something and learn something and you don't implement what you learn, you become of those who does not practice what they preach and who does not practice what they learned. And it becomes a proof against you and not for you on the day of judgment. Because beneficial knowledge and studying is from the greatest things. They say mudhakarat al-ilm. They say going over fiqh at night. They say going over fiqh at night, revising your fiqh, is more virtuous than praying at night. And the reason why they say that is because sometimes there's priorities. You could pray anytime, no problem. But studying in order to protect the religion of Islam and studying to gain knowledge, to propagate deen is very important. The next thing they say is استشعار مراقبة الله تعالى في جميع الأمور. The next thing they say is to have an understanding that Allah is always watching you at all times. To have the understanding that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is watching you at all timings. And this is one of the etiquettes that they mention for the student of knowledge, but this goes to everyday Muslim too, to understand that Allah is always watching you. But they specify it here and they put it here and they make sure to mention it here because you're gaining knowledge in order to inshallah maybe teach one day, or inshallah you should be a person of immense character. The next thing is that tawadi'u dakhil al-jalsa, to have humility when you sit. So again, having humility inside the majlis. The next thing they say is sabr, which is patience. And patience is the only way you could get, you can achieve anything. And Imam al-Shafi'i says that you will never attain knowledge without four things. And one of the four things he said is tuli zaman, which is entire lifetime dedicated to it. And the other thing he mentioned, I can't remember the poem in Arabic, but the other thing he mentioned is to live difficultly, to taste difficultness, to not always be comfortable. Because when you're comfortable, you're not motivated. Because when you're comfortable, you're not motivated. That's why they say it's strongly recommended for the person who's very serious about studying to go abroad, so he could be in a state of discomfort, so he could be focused on his goal, so he could taste discomfort. So patience is the next thing they say, and then they say adab al-haya'i min as-su'al, to not be embarrassed to ask. Because the one who is shy to ask will never know the answer to his question in his head. And there's no shyness in the religion. As long as you're respectful, you ask anything, there's no shyness. How else are we going to learn how to clean up after the bathroom or make wudu, etc.? And the last thing is عدم الانشغال بأمور الدنيا. The last thing they mention is to not be busy with dunya matters. To not busy yourself or your mind with things that pertain to this world. To be busy just with that knowledge that you're attaining. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us understanding and wisdom and to grant us good etiquette. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to grant us ikhlas in everything we do. We ask Allah to grant us ikhlas in our salah and ikhlas in our coming to the masjid and ikhlas in our listening to the Quran and ikhlas in all of our actions and all our sayings. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Inshallah you can stand for Salat al-Isha. Keep the table long, yeah, and don't put anything on the table because we cleaned it today. There was a couple of stains on it. Keep it long, go to the end.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول